Nigeria Info.
We sincerely apologize for that mix-up. It happens once upon a time. Sincere apologies, please. Today is done, and we're here with the Morning Crossfire to talk. And of course, we're talking about the things that are of interest to you. I promise you, this morning we have the time to take your calls during our major conversation. Our guest is the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, Nigeria's ruling party, Mr. Felix Morka. He joins us right here on the Morning Crossfire for the first time, at least since I came on board. He's a lawyer. He's a Harvard-trained lawyer. And, of course, he is also a civil rights advocate, if I'm not mistaken, if you'd like to be called that. That's his history. Some of you know that Felix Morka is much more than just a politician. He has been in head of a civil society organization for years in Nigeria, and that's his background. So I think it's a great one to have him, because we'll look at the Supreme Court this morning. This morning, of course, taking the All Progressives Congress response to the press conference by the former presidential candidate of Labour Party. I think we can now say former, because the election is done and dusted. Mr. Peter Gregory Obi, who gave a very, very interesting and well-followed press conference where he gave his official response to the Supreme Court judgment and verdict. Former presidential candidate of Labour Party also giving to that his reaction to that court verdict that upheld the election of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president of Nigeria on the platform of the APC. In that press conference that held on Monday, November 6, Peter Gregory Obi expressed his disappointment with the verdict of Supreme Court. Yes, he expressed his disappointment with the verdict of the Supreme Court. He said quite a number of things. He said that it was a breach of confidence and a total failure of justice. That verdict by the Supreme Court was a breach of confidence and a total failure of justice. Obi alleged that there was widespread rigging and there were electoral malpractices during that election, and that the Supreme Court had failed to address these irregularities. He also criticized the court for its counterintuitive judgment, as he put it, which he said had transferred a heavy moral burden from the courtrooms to our national conscience. Peter Obi concluded his speech by reiterating his commitment to the fight for a better Nigeria. He says the Labour Party will continue to work to build a Nigeria anchored on the principles of transparency, accountability, and justice. But the federal government of Nigeria, the presidency, that is, responding to Peter Obi's presser through special advice on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, accused Obi of hypocrisy. He said that Obi had benefited from Nigeria in the past, but was now criticizing it when it did not rule in his favor. Onanuga accused Obi of the presidency, accused Obi of being a bad loser and trying to undermine public confidence in the judiciary, saying Obi's allegations of widespread rigging, his allegations of electoral malpractice were baseless and unsubstantiated. Well, he also is urging Nigerians to ignore Obi's sour grapes and to focus on the task of building a better Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu. Mr. Felix Morka, good morning to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning to you.
All right. And, of course, the Lagosians are eager to hear from you the position of the All Progressives Congress on Obi's speech. What is the position of your party on Obi's speech? You've heard, you've read the text of his speech. You've listened to excerpts. What's the party's position on that speech and all he said?
Well, Mr. Obi stated that the judgment of the Supreme Court constituted a breach of confidence and a total failure of justice. But he said so only because he lost at the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court ruled against his appeal. So understandably, he is upset. He is very frustrated. But, he took out all of that frustration on the Supreme Court, which shouldn't be the case. The Supreme Court was not a party to the election. The Supreme Court was not a witness. None of the judges of the Supreme Court were at the polling booths where Peter Obi may have alleged that anything went wrong. They simply looked at the brief, the case he submitted, evaluated it, evaluated all of the judgment of the previous court, the Presidential Election Petitions Court, looked at reviewed the witness statements and all of the points made by that tribunal, and then came to a conclusion that Peter Obi's case lacked merit. The Supreme Court is not a court of trial. It's not a court of first. It didn't hear any evidence, it didn't do anything. It simply applied the law to the point of arguments that Peter Obi and his lawyers framed for determination. Appeal courts determine their issues based on what you, the petitioner, presents as your issues for determination. But you are required to back it up or to have it up at the earlier court with evidence. Peter Obi and the Labour Party did not provide any shred of convincing evidence on which any court could have ruled in their favor. So he has himself and the lawyers to blame for not satisfying the standards of law.
All right. You've said that, he's frustrated and he's taking frustration on the judiciary courts. You've also said that the court or the judiciary, the judges, the Supreme Court cannot conjure evidence for you, evidence to them to back your case up. You're saying that Peter Obi and Labour Party did not want a shred of evidence to convince the judges of the Supreme Court, our lords, why his case should not be struck out or thrown out or dismissed for lack of merit. Are you saying, therefore, that he may be right, that there were, Mr. Morka, there was widespread, in his word, for the words he used now, that there was widespread electoral rigging, electoral malpractice? Are you saying that it may be true, but because he was not able to convict court beyond reasonable doubt, that's why he lost? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying what I'm saying. I'm saying flat out that there was not those occurrences, at least to the degree that would upturn the quality and the reliability of the figures that emanated from the election. That's exactly the point. The law does not require 100% compliance or 100%, if you will, fullness of satisfaction of every spec of standard or law. Yes, in any election, whether in Nigeria or anywhere else in the world, you will have, some infraction, some, guy who comes to a polling unit to make trouble, or somebody, it happens in our normal lives. So nobody expects perfection with any election, which is why the law is there. It says that there must be substantial compliance with the standards and with the law for any election to be upheld. And the February 25th election complied substantially with the laws of our land, which is why all of the courts have upheld that election and declared Bola Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as the president.
All right. For those of you listening, you want to, be a part of our conversation, maybe ask a question or two or give a contribution. I think we'll take only question per caller or one contribution per caller within 1 minute. Please call us on numbers we advertise 0700 993 993 993. That's 0700 993 993 993. And of course, you can listen if you're calling a female caller. You can call that number, call a special line for our female listeners. That's 0146571 and 90 014657190. Our guest this morning on the Crossfire is the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Lazarus Morka, Esquire. We have a listener on the line. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Kofi.
All right. Your name, location, and contribution in 1 minute, please.
My name is Babaji, calling from Okwafo, Badagry area this morning.
All right, nice.
I want to greet your guest. Yeah. The press conference of Mr. Peter Obi about the Supreme Court outcome. As you know, I'm not a fan of APC. Let me say it here. But I'm disappointed, if you ask me. During the campaign, Mr. Obi told the whole world that, look, people are accusing the judiciary that the ordeal he went through in Anambra, when they restored him twice, he did not pay a dime. He said it. And at the end of the day, he even agreed that whatever the Supreme Court says, he will abide by it. Why suddenly he's changing his mind? I think the only thing that worked against Peter Obi is for them not to form alliance with PDP. And he said, I refuse to step down to Atiku. I have my reason. Let's wait till 2027 whether I can be able to contest and gather the same vote.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. But what do you say to that, Felix Morka, that Obi was a beneficiary of the Supreme Court and when he was governor, and they ruled in his favor, and he
that's exactly the reason in my statement, which by the way, Kofi, I was hoping you would also reference my statement, because it does capture, I think, a lot of important aspects of our position. But look, Peter B himself, he said so. We're not, suggesting that for him. He said that whilst, as governor, he was beneficiary of, Supreme Court judgments and judgments of the court generally. How come we didn't hear Peter B go to a press conference to lampoon the courts when they ruled in his favor? How come the courts were, the beacon of a democracy, and now they have become a disgrace to our democracy only because Peter B lost? That is very arrogant. That is very haughty. And no one, and by the way, Peter B, this is a man who some of his supporters, or many of his supporters, think of as, as humble. Humble in what way? Humble only when it's in your favor? Humble only when you are winning, when the courts give you judgment. Then you hail them and celebrate them as the beacon of democracy. And then as soon as you lose, the courts become, something else. You see, we can operate on that, on those parameters. We can do that. We'll do that if every time Kofi loses, Kofi, pushes to destroy the universe. And then when Kofi wins, there's a big party in the universe. That is not the way it works. There are over 7 billion people in this world. If we all, focus on that idea of justice as personal, when it, happens to us, when there's justice for us always, then we will never have the courts. And justice will no longer be justice. It will no longer be justice.
Okay, very interesting. Let's make the next call. Thank you, Felix Morka. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Kofi.
All right, welcome. Who do we have on the line, please?
Market woman.
All right, Market woman, your question or contribution?
For me, I think Obi is humble. That's what I want to say to all politicians, all of us in this country. Let's live a life, a true life that will change our next generation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you calling in. 99.3, good morning.
Good morning, Kofi.
All right, who do we have on the line,
please? This is Rita calling you from Lakwe.
Okay, Rita from Lakwe, a minute.
Kofi, fine. When you said, I think he said, your guest said, since he didn't go in his favor. But we Nigerians know that even if it was from the court, whatever the court rule was, even in Nigerians' favor personally, we are not happy. Things is not working good for us in the country. That's what we want. All those policies they are making, they should make the policy work for our good. They should leave Obi, whatever I said as a statement, should be leave the way. We should work on Nigeria issue right now. Let things work. They should stop buying expensive things for themselves. They should be able to pass information to the president. Since they are speakers of the president, they should be able to pass it to him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. We'll take one call before I go back to our guest. 99.3, good morning.
Good morning, Kofi.
Yes, please. Who do we have on the line?
Gabriel, you are calling from Lekki.
All right, Gabriel, you have a question or contribution for Felix Morka. Please go on. 1 minute.
Yeah, I just want to ask this question. I don't want to take too much time so that others can call in. Kofi, please, I always want to know. Please, Kofi, please educate me so that I can know. The APC excuse every time, always defending themselves. Peter Obi benefited from the Supreme Court. Please, I want to know, is it that Peter Obi did not win the election, or they just declare him winner? Or I just want to know, is it that he did not win, they just declare him winner? Because the man benefited from the court, is it that he did not deserve it? Please, educate me, Kofi. God bless you.
All right, thank you very much for your time. If you have time, we'll go into the history of that. Thank you very much for joining in. Mr. Felix Morka, it could be argued that are you disappointed, let me say, or were you do you think Peter Obi should have congratulated Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of Nigeria, in that speech?
No, I have no expectations of Peter Obi, because I know how, regrettably, how irrational he has been throughout the entire season. I think Peter Obi allowed himself to be taken captive by the by the hysteria of his followers. So he got completely trapped in that bubble that, he won the election, even from the get-go, even just as he left the PDP and joined Labour Party, he operated on the, the sort of, presumption that he was the winner of the election even before the election. That's again, very haughty and arrogant. So, for him to now end this entire journey by not taking the moral high ground, you may disagree with the Supreme Court, you may say whatever you want, but out of respect for our democratic procedures, out of respect for yourself even, yes, Peter Obi should have congratulated the president on his victory. You may say whatever you may on your perspective on what happened in the courts or even at the election. But I think that a man who claims to be a patriot, who claims to love Nigeria, for him to withhold congratulating the president at the end of this entire process, I think is a slap. And I hope that, going forward, I don't know what happens in the future, but, that shouldn't be the way to go for all of us.
All right.
I think that irrespective of your grievances, you should still, summon the maturity to do the right thing and to accord whoever is certified as the winner ultimately.
Yes, my name is
Okay.
Michael.
Yeah, let's put on Michael. Michael, good morning. Where are you listening us from?
I'm calling from Victoria Island.
All right. Your question or contribution in 1 minute or less.
Yeah, I want to talk to Felix Morka. You can't be using the language you are using and you are saying Obi is not humble. Just check the adjective you are using to describe him. It's not right. Moreover, this Peter Obi we are talking about, with the little time he spent working for Labour Party, he was able to amass 6 million to 8 million voters. And you think that is a party? What have you achieved in your life that you are saying that you didn't win?
Okay.
You should
you don't have to go personal. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael, for your time, but you shouldn't, go personal in that way. Felix Morka, what do you say? The caller isn't happy that you said Obi is not humble.
And what is wrong with saying Obi is not humble? What exactly is wrong with that? I mean, Obi and over this campaign period, has lampooned and completely lambasted everybody who, he felt stood in his way.
Yeah, Felix Morka, apologies. We'll go for a short commercial break. Sincere apologies. When we come back, we'll ask you furthermore a few questions before we're done. Stay with us, please.
Life transitions quickly. One moment, you're preparing to transition from school to a promising career. Next thing, you're making plans for happy
from October 20th to November 30th, 2023.
Hey driver, make up to 250,000 naira every week. Download InDrive to give rides to people in Nigeria and start making money. Average driver's weekly revenue based on making 15 trips daily after subtracting license fee according to InDrive statistics in 2023.
Hey, what's your definition of a win-win?
Is when the flight upgrades me from economy to business class for free.
It's making loads of money while working from home. A win-win is getting rewarded for repainting my house with Dulux. Wow!
Count me in. Win shopping vouchers worth up to 90,000 naira and 65-inch LED TV up for grabs in the Buy More Win Big promo when you buy Dulux or Capex paint from any Dulux color center or color shop near you. Promo is valid from now till 31st December 2023. Terms and conditions apply. Dulux, let's color. 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Your number one station for talk. Let's talk. This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, welcome back. We're still here with us, the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress. He said quite a lot, and your thoughts are welcome. Before we say goodbye, 0700 993 993 993, responding to Peter Obi's Supreme Court press conference. Good morning. Hello. All right. Before we go, we'll go back to our guest for his final comments. Yes.
Good morning, Kofi.
Good morning. Who do we have on the line, please?
This is Pastor Ladipo.
Okay, Pastor Ladipo, we're back.
I'm calling from Orilegom.
Okay, your contribution.
You see, I want to ask your guest if he says that. Can you hear me? Hello, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Come again. Come again.
I want to say that your guest, if he says that Peter Obi is arrogant for not congratulating the president after the Supreme Court's judgment, I think your guest is right. The reason is because if a man who joined the political party within a short time, that man gathered an organic crowd as against his own principle that use every form of manipulation to gather crowd, including sacrifice like him. That is why he can come on air to say somebody is arrogant.
Hello. Okay.
He's wrong.
No.
Using such a word that somebody is arrogant.
I don't think
wrong.
it's fair for you to use the word sycophant to describe our guest. But your time is up. I appreciate your time and your contribution, but don't use that word. Please.
Hello?
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Hey, King of Money Radio, morning.
Welcome. Who do we have on the line, please?
This is Chris.
All right, Chris, please go on.
The barrister there, right?
Yes.
Is there anything wrong by saying the truth? You say Obi and his whatever lawyer did not bring proof to the court. This is an election, over 20 people died. And the man boasted, it's my turn to be president. And what the INEC man did, this evidence.
All right, Chris, we're having some issue with your line. Apologies for that. You have to call back. We don't have too much time. Good morning. All right, 99.3, good morning. All right, Felix Morka, quick one before you go. One of the issues Peter Obi raised, he talked about the economy and the performance of Bola Tinubu since he became president. And two issues Nigeria talking about, like I asked you yesterday. Number one, the struggle of the Naira against the dollar and its effect on inflation in the country. Number two, government spending. Some Nigerians are worried about the way the government has spent. Government money has been spent on Bola Tinubu with the, in particular, supplementary appropriation that was passed by the National Assembly. Money is being spent for a lot of vehicles and what some people term frivolities, including what the 1.5 billion naira for the First Lady's vehicle fleet. You have a presidential yacht that has already been purchased. So what do you say to these things? That since your party came to power under Tinubu, that the country has seen its economy tank. Over to you, sir.
Well, I think that it's really a crisis of perspectives. I don't think the economy has, tanked to the degree your question suggests under this government. As a matter of fact, quite to the contrary, I think this government has taken very bold steps that previous governments were unwilling or unable to take. For example, the removal of the fuel subsidy and the effort to harmonize the exchange regimes of our currency in relation to the dollar, these are very bold steps that this government took, that every sensible economists in the world expected our government to have taken a long time ago, but didn't. You see, look, the truth of the matter is that the problems we are dealing with today didn't start today. And you can't rely on a single product for decades and expect the economy to remain strong and buoyant and dynamic. You know, we have failed over the years to effectively diversify our economy to create multiple sources of income. Now, you are a TV host. You are here also as a radio host. I don't know the reason, but maybe it's just because you love the media that much. Maybe it's also because, at the end of the day, you get multiple income that enable you to flourish. Every country also, deserves to have an economy that is multi-dimensional, where, revenue comes from different streams.
Felix Morka,
just to conclude that point, I think that
we're out of time, sir. I apologize, sincerely apologize for that. But we want to thank you so much for taking the time, despite the fact that we've had limited time this morning. Thank you, Felix Morka.
More conversation, more right after this. It's yet another edition of it.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it